So today, we spent some time listening to some fantastic people. These are imaginative, creative, amazing, wonderful folks. And I started thinking about, as we were playing some of these games, there really are two types of people. Some folks, I think, are kind of those types of people that like to tie knots. And remember today together we did an activity that involved groups of us working together to make this big mess. And then suddenly we had to shift from making this big mess, tying this big knot, to figuring out how to untie this knot. So I started thinking, wow, there's really two types of people. And what I learned from the folks that have been presenting today, and by watching you guys as you're participating, is that one type of folks like to tie knots. There's another type of folks that like to untie knots. Isn't that interesting? So we have this group. We have this group of people, and these are not reflective of the picture of the folks that are in the picture here, but what I was thinking about, the people who like to tie knots, if we think about knot tying as things that get in our way of being successful, or things that get in others' way of being successful. We have people that tie knots in all types of different contexts and settings and situations. You got people that tie knots in your relationships. I don't mean marriage. I mean just the way of getting along, right? You have some people that do things that are kind of knot-like. They make this big mess. You have other people that sometimes enjoy that. They love tying knots. They get excited about tying knots. They would prefer to tie knots all day long if they could. And I'm not quite sure yet why folks do that. I just have observed there are people that like to tie knots. I think those folks come in two types. So we have the knot tying people with two subcategories. The folks that enjoy it, the folks that are passionate about tying knots, and then the folks that seem to kind of make these messes and tie these knots unintentionally. The way they go about business, the way they kind of live their life, the way they get engaged with folks seems to just create messes. It's not that they want to do it on purpose. It's just that, man, sometimes you look at what happened, like when we did the activity today and we stepped back, and we saw this big mess on the floor. You're like, oh, how did this happen? It's a knot tying focus. There's another group of people that really get excited and passionate about untying knots. What are these people like? Somehow they see a problem and they don't really worry so much about this problem. They just start untying it. They start unraveling it. They start thinking about what is it that I can do within my skills and abilities to help people get along better, to work together better, either as a team or as individuals or in relationships. These are untying people. So we got the knot tying people, those that do it on purpose, those that kind of do it on accident. And then we have the untying people. My question for you guys is, who are you? Are you someone that ties knots? Or are you someone that unties knots? Today you experienced both of those things. You experienced tying knots and having fun with that. You also experienced untying knots. So I started thinking more about this as we're playing these games, and I thought, okay, the knot tying people, and again, it's not representative of the people that are here today playing these games with us, but I started thinking, what is it about these knot tying people? And I figured, you know what? They're very problem-focused people. Knot tying people love problems. They don't really like to solve problems. That's the untying people. The knot tying people love problems. They get excited about the problem. They want to talk to you about the problem. They want to know how you feel about the problem. They get together with the committee, and they have the committee discuss the problem. They ask your mama, how's your mama feel about the problem? They want to know everything there is to know about the problem. And the argument is we need to know a lot about the problem before we can do something about it. But I started thinking, maybe not. Maybe not. Because I have this other people, this other group I've observed, and these folks are untying knots, and they don't really care so much about the history of the problem, or how long it's been a problem, or what started the problem. They just go to work to untie it. The knot tying people, the problem-focused people, just keep folks stuck. They keep people stuck. And the problem doesn't go away, the problem just stays there. One of the activities we did today also involved groups of people trying to write Parks Make Life Better, and then TEDxYouth Youth. How many times did you guys get stuck in that activity? People are pulling you in all sorts of directions, right? Pulling you here, pulling there. There's one common goal. The goal was to write Parks Make Life Better. The challenge was, man, each time I start making progress on this goal, I got some problem-focused people pulling me in the wrong direction. You have a solution, you have a direction, you know what you're going to do. And these problem-focused people start, they pull you to one side. And all of a sudden, if you're writing P for Parks Make Life Better, it looks like a Z. You're like, whoa, what happened? It's a knot, right? A knot just got tied. So we have this other group of people that I think are really solution-focused people. These are the untying people. These are folks that see a problem. They don't care a lot about the history of this problem. They don't certainly start committees to analyze the problem, to discuss the problem for a long period of time. They go to work immediately to try to do something about it. And what I found most interesting so far amongst the speakers we've heard today is they've all have told us what they are going to do about something, right? They had some kind of passion. They had some type of problem. And were they problem-focused people? Ladies and gentlemen, they were not problem-focused people. Most definitely, they were solution-focused people. What did they do? Did they study these problems? Did they talk a lot in length about these problems? No. They went and they started. They started moving. They started doing something. They took within their capabilities. They built on their skills. And somehow, these solutions start emerging. There isn't a problem focus. There's a solution focus. There's two types of people. There's problem-focused people. There's solution-focused people. There's not tying folks. And there's not untying folks, right? There's the untiers and there's the tiers. In the context of trying to move from here to there, from where you are currently to where you'd like to be, you folks are in the stage of your life where you're finishing up your high school and maybe middle school education. Where would you like to go? Where are you trying to get to? How are you trying to move from where you are to where you would like to be? And how many problem-focused people are getting in the way? How many people are keeping you stuck? In the activity we did today, we used duct tape to move across the poison peanut butter, right? And sometimes we got stuck, and sometimes we were successful. Mostly we had fun, right? So I'd like to admit that sometimes a problem focus, sometimes a not tying focus is really fun. It's fun to make a mess, right? On the other hand, those folks that got caught up in the fun of it, and again, I'm not trying to say that fun isn't important. I think fun is very important. What I'm saying is when we get caught up in that, we become unintentionally problem-focused. Remember I said there's two types of problem-focused people. People who like to do it on purpose, and those folks that just, man, it just kind of happens. We get distracted. We get caught up. In the context of moving from where you are to where you'd like to go, who do you have on your side? Who do you have on your team? In this activity, we see folks working together to move from here to there. That's where you are right now in your lives. My suggestion, or my recommendation is, consider which type of person you'd like to be. Are you going to be a not tire, or are you going to be an untire? Are you going to be problem-focused, or are you going to be solution-focused? Because I really believe passionately you can be either. We heard from one of our first speakers today when she said, if I think I can or if I think I can't, I'm right. Most definitely. Your passion could be tying knots. That's if you think you can't. Your passion could also be untying knots. We've heard plenty of speakers today talk about their experiences in untying knots. So my challenge is this. Decide who you'd like to be. If you find yourself in that unintentional situation of creating these messes and untying these knots and getting excited about these problems, figure out what you can do to start making some exceptions happen. Start moving down this road of being solution-focused. The problem is important. Don't get me wrong. But when you focus only on the problem and not trying to make solutions happen, we get stuck. Just like in this ski activity we see behind us. So don't get stuck. Use those people around you to be supportive and do what you can do to really shift from this problem focus to a solution focus. Thank you.